I never planned on wanting someone like her, and she never planned on being wanted like this. That thought hit before I even understood what was happening. She was leaning against the wooden fence that separated our yards, one arm folded, the other lazily holding a mug of something steaming. My neighbor's aunt, 40-something, poised the way people get when they've lived enough to stop pretending, but not enough to stop wanting. Sunlight caught in the loose strands of her dark hair, and the rest of it was tied back like she'd done it in a hurry and never bothered to fix it. I'd only come outside to grab a box from my car. I didn't expect her standing there, watching the quiet street with the kind of stillness that makes you feel like noise just for breathing. "You're up early," I said, trying to sound casual. She glanced at me over her shoulder, slow and deliberate, like she was deciding whether I was worth the energy of speaking. Then she smiled, small, almost private, like she was letting me in on something no one else would have noticed. "Couldn't sleep," she said. Her voice had that softness people get when the world hasn't started judging them yet that day. I was thinking of going back inside. I didn't. There was something about the way she looked at me, not flirtatious, not detached, just aware. Aware in a way girls my age never were. I stepped closer without meaning to, my hand brushing the top of the fence. Her fingers shifted near mine. Not touching, just close enough that my skin reacted like it had. "You always this quiet?" she asked. "Not always." She took a sip from her mug and watched me over the rim. Her eyes didn't wander, they stayed on me, steady, curious. There was nothing loud about the morning. No cars yet. No voices. Just the sound of a bird somewhere far and the faint hum of someone's AC down the street. The kind of quiet that lets every breath, every movement, mean more than it should. She set her mug on the fence and looked away for a moment, toward the street again. "Getting older is strange," she said. "You start missing things you didn't even notice when you had them." I didn't know what to say to that. So I didn't. She turned back to me, and for a second, her gaze dropped to my mouth before rising again. If she noticed her own slip, she didn't show it. Maybe she meant to. Maybe she didn't care if I saw. She reached for the mug again, but her fingers brushed mine instead. Not much, just enough to make it impossible to ignore. Her skin was warm. My pulse jumped stupidly loud in my ears. "Sorry," she murmured, though she didn't move her hand right away. I didn't either. She breathed out slowly, almost like a laugh. "You know," she said quietly, "your neighbor still thinks of me as the responsible one. The sensible aunt who gives advice and folds laundry correctly." Her tone shifted, softer, lower. "Funny how people only see the version of you they're comfortable with." Her knuckles were still against my hand. I should have pulled away. Instead, I leaned just slightly closer, enough that I could smell the lingering trace of her perfume, something subtle, not floral, more like worn-in warmth and memory. "You don't seem like someone who likes being boxed in," I said. That made her smile, not the polite kind. The kind people give when they've been found out a little. "I miss parts of myself," she murmured. "Ones I didn't think were gone until I started reaching for them again." She didn't look away this time. Before I could answer, before I could even decide what answering would mean, the side gate creaked from the other yard. Footsteps. Voices approaching. Closer than they should have been. She withdrew her hand slowly, but not fast. Not guilty. Her eyes held mine for a beat longer than necessary. Then someone called her name from behind the fence, too close, too familiar. She didn't turn around. And neither did I. She didn't look toward the voice, not at first. Her fingers closed around the mug again, and only then did she turn, composed in a way that made it seem like nothing had just happened between us, no brush of skin, no silence thick enough to lean into. It was her niece, my neighbor, calling from the other side of the fence, asking something about borrowed dishes. She answered casually, steady, like her pulse hadn't been right against mine a minute ago. I stood there trying not to stare at the curve of her shoulder beneath the loose sweater she wore, or the way that sweater slipped lower on one side, exposing the faint line where her collarbone met the base of her neck. I didn't realize I was still looking until she glanced back at me once the voice faded. Just one look, but it held something unspoken. Not approval. Not rejection. More like a warning she hadn't figured out the words for yet. Later that day, I saw her again, by accident, or maybe not. I was in my driveway, pretending to check the backseat of my car for something unimportant. She came out of my neighbor's house holding a stack of books against her hip. I watched her lock the door, her fingers moving with absent familiarity, and then she caught me looking. "You don't work weekends?" she asked, shifting the books to her other arm. "Not today." She nodded once, like that answer fit whatever box she was putting me in. I should have let her go. But I didn't. "Can I help with those?" I asked, already stepping closer. She hesitated, not long, but long enough to make the moment feel like a choice. Then she let me take half the stack. Her niece lived 2 houses down, so we walked slowly, unhurried. Her shoulder brushed mine once, then again like it didn't matter. I pretended not to notice each time. "I heard you moved back here after school," she said. "Yeah. Didn't plan to, but things changed." "What things?" The question was gentle, not probing. Still, I shrugged. "My dad got sick last year. My mom couldn't handle it alone." I glanced at her. "He's better now." She nodded, like she understood more than she said. "I moved back here after my divorce. My sister insisted I stay with her for a while. That was 2 years ago. I didn't know she was divorced. She didn't look like someone untouched by the people she'd loved. There was something careful about the way she carried herself, controlled, quiet, but not cold. We set the books inside her car, and I leaned against the doorframe while she arranged them on the back seat. Her sweater lifted as she reached, revealing a line of skin at her waist, and I looked away before I got caught. "You do that a lot," she said without turning. "Do what?" "Pretend not to look." I didn't answer. She straightened and closed the car door with a soft click. "It's fine," she said, softer now. "I'm just not used to being noticed like that anymore." There was no self-pity in it. Just truth. A truth that hit deeper than I expected. A breeze moved between us, lifting the edge of her hair. She tucked a strand behind her ear and exhaled like the air had gotten heavier. "You know this is complicated," she said finally. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because complicated was a small word for something that was starting to feel too big to hide in my chest. "Yeah," I said. Her gaze lowered to my hand on the car. For a second, she reached like she might touch it, but she stopped herself halfway. Her fingers curled back against her side, restrained. "I shouldn't," she murmured, not finishing the sentence. "I know." We stood there, neither stepping back. Then someone down the street honked a car horn, jolting the moment just enough to break it. She moved first, brushing past me as she reached into the driver's seat for her keys. But as she passed, her hand grazed my arm. Not accidental. Not random. A slow drag of fingertips along the inside of my forearm, brief, but deliberate enough that my breath caught. She didn't look back. And I didn't move until the warmth of her touch faded, and even then, only because I didn't want to chase where she was going. Not yet. I didn't see her again for 2 days. Long enough for common sense to try and talk me out of thinking about her. Not long enough for it to work. I was taking out the trash when I heard her voice through the open garage of my neighbor's house. I should have kept walking. Instead, I lingered by the fence, pretending to tie the bag tighter. She stepped out holding a box of old tools, hair pulled back, sleeves rolled to her elbows. She looked less composed than usual, like whatever mask she wore for the world was left inside the house. "You're avoiding me," she said. It wasn't an accusation. Just observation. "I figured you wanted space." She set the box down on the low wall between the driveways and leaned on it, studying me. "Space isn't really the thing I'm worried about." I didn't ask what she meant, mostly because I already knew. The age difference hung in the air between us like something we both pretended we couldn't see. My niece almost said something, she added, glancing toward the house. She asked why you were looking at me like that the other morning. Blood rushed to my face before I could stop it. What did you say? That you must have been half asleep. She paused. I don't think she believed me. Wind rattled a hanging planter above us. She tucked a loose piece of hair behind her ear, fingers brushing her neck. I don't like hiding things, she said quietly. Then don't. Her eyes flicked to mine at that, sharp, searching, unsure whether I understood the weight of what I'd just said. You think this is simple? She asked. No. But I think pretending it isn't happening is worse. For a moment, neither of us moved. Her breathing slowed, matching mine without meaning to. I could see the faint pulse at her throat, the way her lips parted as if there was something she wanted to say but wouldn't. She stepped closer. Not much, just one slow movement that brought her within arm's reach. The kind of distance where touching would take less intention than not touching. I shouldn't want this, she murmured. You think I don't? I kept my voice low. 1 beat. 2. 3. Then the sound of footsteps from inside the garage, heavy and getting closer. She reacted first, reaching out and grabbing my wrist, pulling me behind the open door just as her brother-in-law stepped into view. He didn't see us. She didn't let go. We stayed like that, her hand wrapped around my wrist, her body inches from mine, the scent of her skin warm and close. My back was against the wall. Her breath brushed the side of my throat every time she exhaled. She didn't move until he walked back inside. Even then, she stayed where she was. You need to go, she whispered. I don't want to. That's the problem. But she didn't push me away. I turned my head, just enough to see her face. Her eyes held mine, steady and burning with something she was still trying hard not to name. Her grip loosened, then slid lower, until her fingertips rested against my palm instead of my wrist. Not a kiss. Not yet. But her hand stayed in mine even after she stepped back. And she only let go when she realized I wasn't going to. She didn't text. Didn't call. Not that she ever really had before, but the silence after what happened in the garage made it heavier than usual. I saw her that evening in my neighbor's backyard. She was helping set up a patio heater for a small family get-together. I hadn't been invited, I wasn't supposed to be there, yet I found myself outside anyway, pretending to look for something in my car just to be closer than I should have been. She noticed before anyone else did. Her eyes found me over the fence, lingering a second too long. Then she looked away like she'd trained herself to. The small crowd had settled, voices low, music barely audible. I didn't move until she slipped away from them, carrying 2 empty glasses into the house. I waited a few beats before following. I caught up to her in the dim hallway by the kitchen, where the lights didn't reach all the way. She stopped when she heard me, but didn't turn around. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. That didn't stop you from looking. She closed her eyes for half a second, then opened them and faced me. There was strain in her jaw, like she'd been grinding down words instead of speaking them. This is getting out of control. It already is, I said. You're just trying not to say it. She set the glasses on the counter, fingers trembling slightly as she let go. You think I don't know what people will say? What it looks like? I'm not, she cut herself off, exhaling hard. You're not what? I asked. Stupid. Her voice was tight. Or reckless. Or desperate. That last word lodged itself somewhere in my throat. I stepped closer, slow enough to give her time to stop me. She didn't. You think that's what this is? I asked. She didn't answer. Her breathing had gone shallow. My hand hovered near her hair, close enough to touch but not quite there. You're scared, I said quietly. I'm not scared of you, she murmured. No. You're scared you want something you can't explain to anyone. Her eyes flashed, not with anger, something closer to panic. "You're 23, she said. "You don't understand what this could do to me. I'm not the one who keeps pulling away." "You think that means I don't?" She stopped herself again, jaw tightening. "Say it," I said, nearly a whisper. Her silence said more than the words she wouldn't use. I lifted a hand, brushing a loose strand of hair away from her face. My knuckles grazed her cheek. She closed her eyes, just for a moment. "Don't," she breathed, but it came out more like a plea than a command. I moved in closer, my voice low near her ear, the warmth of her body a breath away from mine. "Tell me you don't want this, and I'll walk away." Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Someone laughed from outside, too close, too sudden. The sound jolted through the silence like a crack in glass. She looked at me then. And instead of stepping back, she whispered, barely audible, "This can't be undone." She didn't finish the sentence. Someone called her name from outside, her niece, voice getting closer, footsteps crunching on the gravel. She stepped back fast, like her body moved before her mind caught up. I saw the panic flicker across her face before she masked it. She brushed past me to grab the glasses, her shoulder grazing my chest, a touch so quick it might have been accidental if it didn't leave heat behind. I followed her into the kitchen, pretending to look for a drink. Her niece came in a second later, cheeks flushed from cold night air and laughter. "Aunt Claire," she said, barely noticing me at first. "They're asking if you're coming back out." She paused then, eyes flicking between us. "Everything okay?" Claire didn't miss a beat. "Just cleaning up. I'll be there in a minute." Her voice was too even. Too careful. Her niece nodded, but something in her expression shifted before she turned away. She glanced at me again, longer this time. Then she left without saying anything else. The back door closed behind her with a soft click. Claire let out a breath she hadn't let me hear until then. I could see her hands shaking as she set the glasses down in the sink. "She saw something," I said quietly. "She's not stupid," Claire muttered. "She notices more than she should." "Then you should talk to her." She turned, eyes sharp. "And tell her what, exactly?" "That She stopped herself before the word formed. I didn't push. The silence between us said enough. I stepped closer. She didn't move away this time, but her shoulders tensed like she was bracing for impact. "You didn't finish what you were going to say earlier," I said. She looked at me, and for the first time, she didn't try to hide the fear in her eyes. Or the want. "You think this is simple," she said. "But you don't know everything." "Then tell me." She hesitated, then glanced toward the hallway to make sure no one was coming. "My ex-husband," she started, then stopped again, choosing different words. "He's not really out of the picture." I froze. "You said you were divorced." "I am," she said softly. "But he still comes around. Holidays. Family things. He thinks being civil means he has a place in my life. And my sister encourages it because it makes everything easier." She gave a weak, tired laugh. "I didn't tell you because I didn't think." She didn't finish. I moved closer, and she didn't step back this time. I could see the pulse beating fast at her throat, the way her fingers curled against the counter to hide how unsteady they were. "So he still thinks he has a chance," I said. "He doesn't," she answered instantly. "But that doesn't mean he wouldn't cause a problem if he knew." "And your niece?" I asked. "She hears everything," she murmured. "Even when she pretends not to." Her voice dropped, rougher now. "If she starts asking questions, if anyone starts guessing," she trailed off, and this time I heard the real answer inside the silence. I stepped close enough that my hip brushed hers. She didn't look at me, but she didn't move away. "Tell me to stop," I said quietly. Her hand lifted like she meant to push me back, but instead her fingers caught in the fabric of my shirt, barely holding on. "I can't," she whispered. And that was the first decision she didn't undo. She didn't let go of my shirt, not right away. Her fingers stayed curled in the fabric like she was holding herself together by holding on to me. The house was quieter now, music still drifting from the yard, but the laughter outside had thinned into low conversation. The kind people had when the night was wearing down. "We need to stop," she said, but the words came out close to my throat, not the air. Her hand was still there. She hadn't stepped back. "You don't want that," I said. "That's not the point." "Then what is?" She closed her eyes and took in a breath that made her shoulders rise, then fall too slowly. "You think this is about wanting? That part's easy." Her voice dropped lower. "It's everything that comes after." I didn't touch her, just leaned in close enough that my chest brushed her arm when I breathed. She didn't move. "You already made a choice," I said. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "Not yet. Not completely." "Then make it." Her eyes opened, and for once, she didn't look away. Whatever she'd been holding back wasn't hiding anymore. The careful, measured distance she'd protected herself with was slipping, and she knew it. "You don't understand what this could cost me. You don't understand what it's already costing us." She exhaled, sharp and quiet. "You're too young to be this certain. Maybe you're too used to talking yourself out of things you want." She almost laughed, but it came out closer to a sound someone makes when they're caught off guard by their own truth. I lifted a hand, stopping just shy of touching her. She looked at it, then at me, eyes flicking between restraint and surrender. "If I touch you," I said, "I'm not pretending anymore." Her throat tightened. "You already stopped pretending." She stepped back, just half a step, but my hand followed without thinking, catching her wrist gently before she could retreat any further. Her breath hitched, barely audible. "If you walk away now," I said quietly, "you'll spend the rest of your life convincing yourself you had no choice." "And if I don't?" she asked. "Then you stop lying to yourself about what this is." She stared at me, and something shifted, not sudden, not dramatic, but final. She stepped forward again until the space between us disappeared. Her fingers came up slowly, like she was afraid of her own decision, and rested on my chest. Not pushing me away. Anchoring herself. "Say it," I murmured. Her eyes didn't move from mine. "I'm not stepping back." The air between us felt charged, thick with everything we hadn't said, everything we hadn't let happen. I moved closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her breath against the corner of my mouth. Her hand slid up, fingertips brushing the side of my neck. "This doesn't end well," she breathed. "Then let it begin badly," I answered. She didn't pull away. And in that moment, without a kiss, without breaking the last inch of space, we both knew the decision was already made. Not later. Not someday. Now. Neither of us moved for a long moment. We didn't need to. Something had already shifted, and the silence didn't feel like danger anymore, it felt like acknowledgement. Her hand was still on my chest, fingers no longer tensed like before. I covered her hand with mine, not squeezing, just holding it there, letting the quiet settle around us. She didn't pull away. "You're still shaking," I said softly. She looked down at our hands like she couldn't quite believe they were there. "I don't do this," she murmured. "I don't let things happen like this." "I know. That doesn't scare you?" "It scares you enough for both of us," I said with a small smile. She let out a breath that was almost a laugh. I didn't push for more than that. Instead, I eased closer, slow enough that she could stop me if she changed her mind. She didn't. Her forehead brushed my collarbone, barely there, but intentional. I rested my chin lightly against the top of her head, and she breathed in like maybe she'd been holding air for years. Her other hand came up and curled into the back of my shirt, not clutching, just staying. "I keep thinking about the reasons this is wrong," she said quietly. "You'll find new ones every day if you want to." She huffed. "You're not supposed to be the rational one." "I'm not. I'm just done pretending you're the only one risking something." That quieted her. After a moment, she turned her face slightly, her temple brushing my jaw in a way that made my pulse thrum. It wasn't a kiss. It was steadier than that, more deliberate. I don't know how this is supposed to work, she admitted. We don't have to know. We just have to not run from it. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she shifted back enough to look at me. Her eyes were searching, still cautious, still layered with years of practiced restraint, but the fear wasn't driving anymore. Something warmer was. If I stay close to you like this, she said, voice low, I'm not going to talk myself out of it again. That's the point. Her gaze softened, and I saw the moment she let go, not of responsibility, not of awareness, but of the part of herself that always defaulted to retreat. Slowly, she slid her fingers between mine. Interlaced, intentional. Just so you know, she said, I don't do casual. I wasn't here for casual. Her breath caught, and she leaned her forehead against mine, not dramatic, not rushed. Just there. Present. Real. Outside, someone called her name again, but it felt far away this time. She didn't flinch. She didn't move toward the door. I'll deal with the rest when it comes, she said. But I'm not walking away from this anymore. I squeezed her hand gently. Good. We stood like that, close and unhurried, the kind of closeness that didn't need proving. She rested her head against my shoulder, and I wrapped an arm around her waist, not possessive, not hidden. Just honest. When she finally spoke again, her voice was calm. Certain. We'll figure it out. Together. And for the first time, there was no question mark at the end of it.